Story 1. When people talk about something they know, they usually make it easier for others to understand. The whole idea is that intelligent people use simple language. They are not concerned with impressing you with their intelligence. They want you to understand what they are talking about. Story 2. You can really tell when someone is intelligent because they would rather explain something clearly than sound impressive. Additionally, they get excited when they learn something new instead of doubling down on being wrong. Story 3. They know when to say, "I do not know," admitting they do not know something instead of pretending they do. Story 4. They react to jokes and wordplay quickly. Humor requires an involved cognitive process, and the faster a person reacts to a joke, the quicker their reasoning is. Story 5. The smartest people I have known were all naturally curious. That is the only unifying trait I have noticed. Story 6. They love to learn new things, ask good questions, and listen to you when you explain. Some are so bored, they even learn things they will never need just to have something new for the brain. Story 7. They ask thoughtful questions, listen more than they talk, notice details others miss, and can explain things simply. Story 8. They recognize that this question is asked constantly on Reddit. Actually, that is not being smart. It is probably just terminally online people noticing the rapidly growing black hole that is human content on this platform. Story 9. If they do not understand something, even something trivial, it bothers them until they can research it and comprehend it. In the meantime, they will admit that they do not understand and will not try to act like an expert on the subject. Their opinions are formed through critical thinking, not emotions or preconceived notions. Story 10. They ask insightful questions instead of trying to sound smart with answers. Their questions make you think, I never considered that angle. Story 11. Often in conflict situations as an observer, the ability to see both sides or perspectives, or the refusal to be absolutist on a question framed by someone else as being one of morals. Story 12. Intelligence is a range. There are many types. Generally, there is a level of competency in what people do. They might not be competent at everything, but they may be brilliant in one area and specialize in it. They are burdened not with what they know, but with what they do not know. They can talk exhaustively and in depth on that topic and understand subtle nuances that another person might miss. A sign of intelligence is the willingness to listen to another point of view different from their own and to question their own views and beliefs. Another sign is curiosity. They long to know, to understand, and seek knowledge as if grasping for air itself. These individuals might not be the most socially gifted, though they can be. Story 13. They accept and even embrace the fact that they are not smart. They are willing to admit they are ignorant of a subject and ask questions of someone who knows more than they do in order to learn. Story 14. If they do not know the answer to your question, they usually say, "Sorry, I do not know that." A fool will always start to tell you something unrelated. Story 15. They are knowledgeable enough to hold a conversation on many topics. They ask a lot of questions, especially when they do not know something. I have a friend like this. She seems to know a lot about anything anyone is talking about. I asked her how, and she does not know. But I notice that she asks questions and is genuinely curious. I think it is just in her nature to pick up on things very easily, and she does not even realize she is always passively learning. Story 16. Look for the quieter ones, seek to understand, and be naturally curious and opportunistic to learn from others. This is the place for the ego versus confidence debate as well. Ego is competitive and has to be right. Confidence does not worry about being wrong. Ego often leads to being more closed-minded and not receptive to new information. Confidence contributes to everyone else getting better. Ego does not. Story 17, usually quiet, but when provoked with a difficult question, they seem to provide a very coherent and elaborated answer. Story 18, honestly, nothing. These types of questions and comments do not really reflect reality. There are many ways to define smart, making the definition meaningless. On top of that, smart people do unintelligent things all the time. So are they smart or not? Why does it matter anyway? Story 19. Most people here are commenting on signs that a person has high emotional intelligence. For that, they are right. For me, that is not what smart is, that is about intelligence quotient. Most people I have met with very high intelligence quotients are quite strange. They are often awkward around people. Many have big egos that are trying to hide crippling insecurity from being bullied in their younger years for being different. They get better with age as they become more socialized, but often they also have emotional issues such as depression and anxiety. Sometimes this translates to them being scathing of others who do not see what they see. Some are a bit on the spectrum, but not all or even close. Most are very gentle at heart, but they have their outbursts. A tiny minority have both high intelligence quotients and high emotional intelligence. Story 20. They say, I don't know, unironically, then search for it, fall into a research hole, and accidentally learn 3 new unrelated things before returning like a boss. Story 21. They are likely progressing through their careers and life easily and relatively unfazed because everything seems simple to them. Story 22. In my opinion, they would know the difference between a learning moment and a conversation. I learned this difference and was humbled when I had my first interview with Westinghouse Electric. I went looking for practice, not a job. I knew I was very underqualified. My interviewer noticed this and called me out on it, but was kind enough to tell me about the field and how I should navigate from here on. In short, I was talking to him as I would my colleagues and classmates. His tone shifted, and he said something along the lines of, "You should probably learn to be quiet and listen more if you want a job as an engineer." So I try to be quiet and listen more. Story 23. They ask many questions and listen attentively. They make you feel like the most important person in the world after your conversation. Story 24. If they are really smart, there will not be any. There is no advantage to showing off like that. Perhaps the only one is that they will be quiet. Nobody ever learned anything while talking. Story 25. When they discuss complex ideas and make them simple. Also, if they see through situations to an answer that no one else saw. I remember 20 years ago when I was with one of my smarter friends, and we were hanging out with a big group at brunch. We were getting rowdy, and it was time to go. They were telling us to leave, but not everyone wanted to go. We started walking through the restaurant toward the problems, and he just opened the exit door. Someone said, "It says do not use." He looked at everyone and said, "What are they going to do? Kick us out?" It was perfect, and that door was much closer to the parking spot anyway. Story 26. The way someone explains complex information without making you feel unintelligent is attractive. I appreciate quiet confidence and people who share random facts they learned years ago. Story 27. The best comments focus on intelligent behavior when interacting with others. For me, it is quick problem solving. Story 28. I think many people are describing humble individuals or good communicators. Neither necessarily means they are intelligent, but they often go hand in hand. A small sign to me that indicates if someone is generally intelligent is how quickly they learn a new topic or adapt to a new situation, whatever it may be. Story 29. They do not act like the smartest person in the room. That is how you know they probably are. Usually quiet in a group, deadly in a one-on-one conversation. Story 30. The quiet individuals who do not feel the need to boast during conversation tend to be highly intelligent and are capable of engaging in the most profound discussions once you move beyond small talk. Story 31. They are funny, not by making fun of others, but by genuinely telling good jokes, quips, and doing things that everyone enjoys. Story 32. All you are going to get is a list of behaviors people interpret as showing deeper intelligence. If someone is smart, they will be able to thrive in environments like poverty and have more control over the circumstances because they are intelligent. Good qualifiers are a highly prestigious job, extensive education, success, money, and social circle. Signs that do not indicate low or high intelligence include low mood, being nice, and being curious. These may show an active brain, but being smart means you can take advantage for benefit. Otherwise, it is useless. Story 33. If you mention someone to another person, that person often talks about how smart the individual is. You I'm planning to go to the new barbecue spot with Tim. Them. That's great. Tim is very smart. He knows a lot about X. That is when you realize you are not the only one who has noticed, as their intelligence has become their defining trait to everyone who knows them. Story 34. This is based on complete observation and I might be wrong, but people who talk without filling their sentences with sounds like or and speak fluently in one go. Story 35. People who can be presented with new material, process it quickly, and ask good questions stand out. You can tell they are putting things together and beginning to anticipate future developments. Story 36. They are quieter than others. They do not speak without thinking. It seems like a small thing, but most people do not do this. Story 37. My wife works in daycare and has had the opportunity to see certified genius children and kids who are the opposite of genius. One observation she made is that they become fixed on something and repeatedly practice the skill they want to acquire. They constantly look at what went wrong and what went right and ask, why didn't this go as I expected? They try again and change what went wrong. Story 38. When they can solve brain teasers and puzzles very quickly, the efficiency with which they do so compared to the average person is remarkable. Story 39. When they express feeling bad for not working hard, it is usually along the lines of, I didn't do that much, or it wasn't that impressive. Story 40. Humbleness. A smart person knows they do not know everything and should not presume to. They can give an opinion but be swayed by logic. They can also apologize and accept being wrong. Story 41. They freely admit when they do not know something on a topic without being self-detrimental. Later, they often conduct a deep search or ask others for new information about the topic. Story 42. Two things. Most of the time, they are silent. There is no need for them to interject themselves into an argument, as they probably have a better understanding of the topic than those currently arguing about it. Second, when they do speak on a topic in their knowledge base, they strive to explain in the most understandable terms possible without being condescending. They truly want to share their knowledge, not to show that they are smart. Story 43. Because he can read and then make a spaceship by learning how to do it, probably in Handyman magazine. I learned how to make a rocking horse in Handyman magazine. Story 44. My boss is extremely intelligent but never boasts. He never misses a beat. He has never forgotten anything in the time I have worked with him. Once, he referenced a small change in a footnote on a random page that was produced by our college graduate analysts. No one reads the footnotes. He is very sharp and knows everything when you ask. He is also humble and dislikes when I highlight his intelligence. Story 45. Being unsure. There is one student in my English class who can make the most eye-opening statements about anything and immediately say, I don't know though. It is actually very hilarious. Story 46. They are uncomfortable with small talk. Not in a way that is condescending. They just genuinely do not enjoy talking about the weather for the millionth time that day and actually want to have an engaging conversation. Story 47. They listen more than they speak. Rather than dominating conversations, they observe, process, and respond carefully. Story 48. They simply understand an extremely complex flow in a few minutes and can explain it as if they were the ones who designed it. I work in information technology and live around many people with above-average intelligence, and I often feel like an amoeba. Story 49. From looking at intelligent people of the past, such as Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla, they are usually fairly humble and wait before speaking. Intelligent people do not typically make it a big deal that they are intelligent. They just are. They also have the ability to admit that they do not know everything. I would not expect an engineer to have the same knowledge as a doctor despite both being generally regarded as intelligent professionals. Both have to be able to admit when they do not know something in order to work together to create something like a magnetic resonance imaging machine. People who think they know everything tend to be the same individuals who are actually uninformed because they lack the humility to recognize that they still have to learn. Therefore, they do not learn. Intelligent people appreciate the process. Uninformed people want only the finish line. Story 50. Definitely not reading this post and failing to open a popcorn bag. Deciding to cut it with scissors and then realizing you were trying to open it on the wrong side of the bag. This may have happened. Story 51. Someone who is incredibly observant. You can see it in their body language when you are with a group of people, as if they are analyzing data or something. Story 52. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. Some really smart person, probably. Story 53. Happy to explain things to people in a simple way that does not make them feel stupid and is not judgmental. Story 54. Genius is used too often in modern times. There is a difference between someone who has worked hard to become knowledgeable in various areas and someone who is truly a genius. Story 55. I do a lot of training on data analytics, mostly for relatively new beginners. I always know when we have a good participant when they make a connection or ask a question I have not heard before after doing this for 17 years. Or they begin making connections between concepts before they are formally taught. In general, quiet people are the silent observers. They constantly take in information and experiences, processing things on their own. I am referring to those who usually speak very little, but when they do, you feel compelled to listen intently. Loud, attention-seeking people seem to learn just enough to repeat what they want recognition for, with little care for innovation or building upon existing knowledge. Story 56. If a person thinks creatively, they find solutions that are different but easier to implement and feasible for everyone. Story 57. A smart person may feel intimidated by someone who is smarter than they are, but will not waste the opportunity to learn from someone more knowledgeable by being arrogant or defensive. Story 58. When they agree with me, come to the same conclusions I do, and praise my insights and decisions, those are signs of a sound mind and a keen intellect. Story 59. Before posting a question on AskReddit, users check the subreddit to see if it has already been recently asked. Story 60. There are no universal signs. People can be intelligent in some ways and less so in others. Intelligence comes in different forms: book learning, mechanical intelligence, emotional intelligence, literary intelligence, numerical intelligence. My biggest issue with people is that some completely overestimate themselves. I know someone who is great at memorizing trivia but often jumps to completely wrong conclusions and argues they are right when it would take just 2 to 3 minutes of research to realize they are making fools of themselves. Story 61. The way they talk and deliver information is important. To deliver information well, one must fully understand what is being said. Story 62. It is my opinion that people can be intelligent in many different ways. Someone who is well-versed in literature may have no idea how to play the piano or how to fix a car. A person who knows 5 different languages may not know how to prepare a proper dinner for themselves. There are many different types of intelligence, and labeling a group of people as smart or stupid because they do not fit a preconceived notion is not helpful. One of humanity's strengths is that we can specialize in certain roles that allow us to prosper as a species. If I had to answer, I would say a smart person is someone who spits into the wind exactly once. Story 63. Sometimes, when asked a question in conversation, you will notice some people take a brief pause before giving an answer. Taking time to fully understand a question and thinking about how to give a proper answer is usually a sign that someone actually understands what they are talking about. Story 64. They expect people to be like them, then realize they are rare or scarce. Then they become depressed because of loneliness, perhaps angry about it. Story 65. Leave it to Reddit users to gaze with wide-eyed admiration at people who are completely self-centered and oblivious. Story 66. Curiosity and an investigative nature. Humility to know when they do not know something. Awareness that there is always more to learn. Mental flexibility to change their stance once presented with compelling information. Story 67. Using the search function shows this question has been asked many times already, so I am deciding not to post it again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.